First of all, forget everything that you think you know about reality, because there is a 0% chance that what we are perceiving of reality is actually how it is. Dr. Joe Dispenza said it best, and he says that we don't perceive reality as how it is, we perceive reality as how we are. I've been to 4 Joe Dispenza retreats at this point, and everything that I'm about to tell you, including the intro, I've learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's done a ton of research to back all of this up, so I recommend that you look into his sources, into his books, his teachings, his retreats, because he has put in the work. I am just the messenger to you to introduce you to this. So grab yourself a drink, grab a notebook, and let's get to it. This information can get very deep and very complex, but I am just going to gloss over it with 3 key concepts. And the first one is gonna be summed up with this one quote that literally changed my entire perspective on life when I heard this. We are not material form that processes information. We are immaterial information organizing itself into material form. What this quote means is we basically think, because we're living a human experience, we see with our eyes, and so we think that we're our bodies and we're manifesting from something that is out there somewhere and finding it here. But in actuality, we are not our bodies first. We are actually our soul first. So that is the immaterial form. So we are actually information in the field. We are energy first. And based on our energy level and our frequency, that determines our physical form here. So everything that you have in your life, everything that you are, that you possess, is based upon your frequency in the field. So how are we creating our frequency out in the field? Well, it all stems from our consciousness, and our consciousness is our thoughts. So if you really think about it, your thoughts are what are creating your reality, because our thoughts emit a certain frequency, and that frequency attracts the same frequency. We are going to attract the frequency of our thoughts. And so putting it into this perspective of you are actually immaterial information organizing itself into material form, not material form processing information, it changes everything, because you finally feel like you feel like you're much more in control, or you have a lot more power over where your life goes and who you become. And so take this time to really think about your thoughts. What thoughts consume your mind every single day? Because if they're negative thoughts and it's attracting a negative outcome, a negative life, it's because of your thoughts. And truthfully, we only can see with our eyes a tiny, tiny, tiny sliver of what reality actually is. What I am seeing with my eyes, you that is seeing me right now, it is literally just your brain processing a reflection of light. And because the energy of matter is so dense, it causes it to be really, really slow. There's infinite frequencies that exist, and right now we are processing and experiencing the lowest one. When we first came to Earth and we were surviving out in the wild like every other animal, we were forced to focus on what's right in front of us, because if we didn't, we would die. We needed to make sure that we could see clearly that there is a cheetah over there trying to attack us, or a bear, or to find a rabbit over there, to chase and hunt down, to eat for food. Our brains evolved for us to only focus on what is right in front of us. And so we have blocked out everything else. Like, you know how there are psychics, there are mediums. These people are not special because in reality, we all have those gifts within us. We just haven't accessed them. So when they are able to see events in the future, or when they are able to talk to someone who has passed away, that is them surpassing what we are accustomed to seeing just here in front of us. But really, there are so many frequencies that we are not using, that we are blind to. And what Dr. Joe says, if you don't see it, or if you don't pay attention to it, it doesn't exist for you. And what he refers to when he says it is the quantum field. So the quantum field is outside of this 3D reality. It is outside of time and space. And so in the quantum field, there's no time or space. So if there's no time and no space, then that means anything can happen at any time, and everything is happening all at once. Because if you have infinite time, there's no time, so there's infinite time, how many things could you get done in infinite time? You can do everything. If there's no space, meaning there's no distance from me right here to this camera to wherever you are watching this, if there's no space, then that means that in order for me to get to you, I can just be there immediately, because there's no space. Space doesn't exist, and time doesn't exist. Because if space did exist, then that means it would take me time to get from here to there, but there's no time. So anything can happen all at once, and everything is happening all at once in the quantum field. When you get accustomed to seeing life in this way, you have a much better understanding, and you can have a higher sense of belief, because you understand that there are infinite things that exist. There is a reality that exists where you are a movie star. There is a reality that exists where you are a spiritual teacher. There's infinite realities that exist. And so all you have to do is shift your energy and your frequency to the frequency of the reality you want. So if you know all realities exist at the same time in the quantum field, all you have to do is be like, okay, well, what frequency is the reality that I want? And then match that frequency. And remember what we said, how do you emit your frequency is with your thoughts. So that's the first concept. And I could go on and on about that forever, but let's move on to the second concept. Dr. Joe always says, in order to create a new reality, you have to have a new personality. Your personality creates your personal reality. And I'll give you an example of this. There was a story where Dr. Joe was at one of his retreats, and someone came up to him and she asked him,
why am I not in my vacation home in Cabo if this stuff is real?
And he said, because the person living in a vacation home in Cabo wouldn't be here asking me, why don't I have a vacation home in Cabo? And that really hit home for me, because I was like, damn, that is so true. Like, if that was your reality, you wouldn't be here asking why you don't have it, and you wouldn't be here victimizing yourself. So in order to become a new person and literally get a new personality, to be of the personality of the version of yourself that is living the reality that you want, you have to start with your thoughts. Because if you're the kind of person that on their commute to work, you're driving, you get road rage, and then all of a sudden you feel a lot of anger, and then you carry that anger with you for the rest of your day, and you live that way every day of your life, then you have become an angry person. And that all stemmed with the thoughts of you getting angry that someone cut you off, or the fact that there's traffic on your way to work. So I started doing this in my own life, and this is how I was able to manifest the audience that I have, manifesting 175K plus followers on Instagram. I started posting on my social media platform, on my Instagram, that I've had since I was in middle school. And so obviously I did feel afraid of judgment, but at that moment I made a choice, and I was dedicated to the idea of me becoming a full-time content creator. And I said, you know, if I'm gonna become a content creator, I need to think that I am a content creator, and I'm just gonna do it despite my fears, despite my doubt, despite all of that. I just need to do it because I know if I was a content creator, this is what I would do. And so I started doing that. I posted every single day, and I started seeing myself more as a creator. I started attending events. Within, I wanna say, was it a year? That'd be crazy if it was a year. Oh my God, no way. It was a year when I manifested 100K subscribers, or 100K. Look at me thinking about YouTube subscribers already. No, when I manifested 100K followers. It was a year. Wow, that's insane. I literally didn't even realize that. But anyways, but there were so many things that I did differently. Like, I started identifying as a content creator, and I was like, what would a content creator do, or what would that version of me do? And I started doing those things. This also happened to me with my apartment. So I think I need to make a separate video for like all of the things that I manifested, but I really wanted to live in like a beautiful modern apartment in Salt Lake City. At the time I was living with a roommate. I really wanted to live alone, and I just wanted like a beautiful modern apartment with big glass windows. I went to a social media like entrepreneur networking event, and I remember I was like, at this point I had maybe like 20K followers that I had gotten in the course of maybe 3 months of like doing social media. I went from like 900 to like 20K really fast. I remember looking at my closet, and I said, like, I have to dress very different. I have to dress like I am an influencer, and I need to represent myself in that way. And I remember from that moment on, everything changed, because I started acting differently. I started dressing differently. I started thinking differently, because I was looking at apartments online, and I saw this one that I loved, but I had like this really old Prius that like was duct taped all over. It was really like run down, and I felt so ashamed of it. And I was like, going to that event gave me the confidence to show up in that apartment and take a tour, because at first I was like, oh my God, like, I don't want them to know I'm a fraud, that I can't afford this apartment, blah, blah, blah. And I went anyways, because my confidence after going to that event was so high. I was like, I'm just gonna stop by. And I look cute. I was dressed as my new self. And I stopped by this apartment and I took a tour, because I wanted to envision my life there. I took a video to like imagine where I would put my furniture, which apartment I would want, and that changed everything for me, because from that moment on I felt so motivated, and I could just imagine my life there. And fast forward to literally a few months later, I manifested an even better apartment than the one that I toured. An even better one that I was able to afford. Which, by the way, when I got that apartment, at first I was like, it's a little bit out of my budget, but I know I'm gonna get a raise at my job. Like, I was just like, I was so certain I was gonna get it. And literally a month after moving in, I got a raise and was able to afford it very comfortably. That's just to show, like, if you change your identity of how you see yourself and you see yourself as a new person, you will literally change your thoughts. Because even me, just dressing differently and doing something that my old self wouldn't do, but my new self would, changed everything. I don't know if I hadn't gone to that networking event, I don't know if I would have stopped by that apartment to tour, because I don't know if I would have had the guts. I felt like so nervous, and I felt like imposter syndrome even just going. But after leaving, I was so motivated. And that's what you have to do. Literally look at your life and start with the physical things, because even the physical things will help you so much. Like dressing like your new self, doing the things that your new self would do, even if it's going to a networking event, even if it's like taking your book and going to read at the park, even if it's going to a workout class once a week, like whatever that is, start with one little thing. Another thing that is part of becoming your new self and creating a new personality for yourself is with your thoughts and changing them in real time. An example of this that I have and that I have used is I had such a limiting belief when it came to money. I realized, I'm like, no, you have to change your thoughts in the moment of right when you're thinking them. So I realized, I was like, when do I have the most negative beliefs about money? And that was when I would go to pay for something anywhere. It didn't matter what I was paying for, if it was like literally groceries, food, like any necessity. And it didn't matter how much money I had in my account. Even though I knew I had enough money, I always had a fear and a doubt that my card would decline. I was just like, you can't be doing this. And so I decided every time I put my card down to pay for anything, I am going to say thank you. I am so grateful that I can buy this, and I am making money by purchasing this. So I would look at the price, I'd be like, okay, $50 for groceries, I just made $5,000. I'd multiply it times 10 and be like, I just made $5,000. And then I would, this is all in my head, by the way. So like, I'd be like, wow, I just made $5,000. Whoa. And this specifically, I got from Maddie B. Webb. She was the one who I learned this from. But Dr. Joe does teach to change your thoughts in the moment. And if you do this enough times, you are literally rewiring your brain to think differently. And now, instead of being a person that lives in lack every time you go and pay for something, you are a person that is grateful and abundant. And so that changes who you are. And then the more you do that, the more neural networks that you connect in your brain to solidify that belief. And then that becomes your personality. So now it becomes automatic. When you go into a store, you're grateful, you feel abundant. Thinking about making money while you're spending money and making a lot of it, your brain doesn't know the difference. Your internal reality is what you think up here, and it's more real than what's literally right in front of you. So if you tell your brain, I just made $5,000, and you're on that wave of frequency, guess what's gonna come to you? $5,000. Because if you genuinely feel like you have it, your on that frequency and it's going to come to you. So do that with anything that you want to change in your life. Catch yourself in the thoughts, and that's why Dr. Joe teaches meditation, because it's a really great way to be present, because otherwise we go on autopilot and we have all of these automatic thoughts that are negative that we don't even realize that we're having. So by practicing meditation, it really helps us to come back to the present moment, because in the present moment is where you create, and in the present moment is where you can create a new reality. So if you're thinking, well, I'm not good at meditation, like no one is good at first. Even Dr. Joe says, I still sometimes it will take me an hour to get into the zone. So I allot 2-hour windows so that I know I will for sure have the time to get in the zone within this dedicated period. Don't let that intimidate you, because it is a practice and a skill that needs to be practiced just like anything else, but it will help you retrain your mind in the real world, and it will help you become more aware of your thoughts in the moment. And if you're feeling really bad, you can look at yourself and separate yourself from your thoughts and be like, okay, I just realized I'm having a lot of these negative thoughts. Let me change that. Let me think of something else that I actually do want to happen, and let me repeat that in my mind. And that is how you rewire your brain to have a new personality. And the last concept that I will leave you with for this video, and this is one of my favorite things that Dr. Joe teaches, and it's, if you want it and you desire it, you're actually pushing it away from you. He will say in his meditations, bring it to you, because that is literally how you have to be. If you've ever heard the phrase, I don't chase, I attract. What's meant for me will simply find me. That affirmation is so golden, and it's not Dr. Joe's, but that affirmation is exactly what this entire concept is about. If you are trying to go and find whatever it is that you want in your life, and you're saying, well, I don't have this and I want it, you are automatically in lack. And the vibration that you're on is not the same vibration of the thing that you want. Because when you're truly on the vibration of the reality that you want, you don't feel like you actually need it. You may want it, but you don't feel like you need it, because you feel like if it's meant to be, it will be, and it will come to me, and I trust that it will just come to me. And that sense of trust and sense of knowing that it will come to you is what puts you at that same frequency, and that's when it comes to you. That's why they say when you're looking for a partner, you're not gonna find them. But when you stop looking, that's when they find you. And that's literally the same concept with manifesting anything in life. And something that Dr. Joe preaches is to focus on the feeling, not on the actual thing. And what I mean by this is, rather than focusing on having a big house with a lot of money, think of why you want a big house with a lot of money. Is that going to produce a certain feeling that you desire that you don't have right now? Is it going to produce a feeling of security, or a feeling of comfort, of joy, of satisfaction? Because if you focus on the actual physical things that you want, you may attract those physical things, but then once you have them, you're like, wait, this was supposed to solve my problem. I was supposed to feel happy now, or I was supposed to feel secure now. But then you realize you don't feel the feelings that you thought you would, and you're still feeling the way that you did when you felt like you lacked them. So now it's like, that's why people say money can't buy you happiness. So you have to focus on the feeling. And I've seen this in my life, actually. I wanted to attract and manifest living in New York in a really nice apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows. And I wanted a job that I would be networking, and I wanted to work at a startup, and I wanted to work remote, and I wanted to make over 100K. And I manifested all of that, but I was not happy. I was literally not happy. Isn't that insane? I was not happy because I was focused on all the wrong things. I was focused on the actual things, you know, the job, the city, the apartment, the salary, and I wasn't focused on the feelings. I didn't focus on wanting to feel secure, wanting to feel free, wanting to feel happy, wanting to feel joy. I didn't feel any of those things. And that is why it's so important to focus on the feeling, because one of my favorite things that Dr. Joe says is when you focus on the feeling and you actually produce that feeling, and you wanted to get that thing in order to produce that feeling, but you already feel the feeling, then why do you need that thing if you already feel the feeling? If I already feel secure, if I already feel happy, if I already feel free, if I already feel joy and love, then I no longer need any external thing to give me those feelings, because I've produced them for myself. And that is just the beautiful thing about manifestation and about what Dr. Joe teaches, is it really makes you realize, like, yes, you can manifest any material possession that you want, and that is okay. But you have to understand that if you want the feeling, that's something that you can create and feel at any point in time without any external thing to give that to you. When you're on that frequency of feeling love, abundance, and joy, the universe will bring things to you that will also be carrying the frequency of love, abundance, and joy. And it might not be what you expect. So you may want to manifest 100,000 followers, but why do you want the 100,000 followers? Is it because you want to feel validated? Is it because you want to feel worthy? Because I guarantee that even if you do get that $100,000 or 100,000 followers, but you haven't practiced focusing on the feeling, you're still gonna feel that emptiness even when you do get there. You can have it all, but is that really what you want? So with that, if you've made it to this point, I want to personally thank you, and I want you to comment down below, I can attract anything I want. Thank you for watching. I love you so much, and see you in the next one.